Hey, everybody. Hey, Steve.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm doing good.
Excellent. Excellent. Here we go. Another digital experience workshop.
Yep.
We
Third
just
Thursday of the
finished.
month,
We just finished like our first live event.
which went amazing.
We did the Digital Momentum Summit at the beginning of June. It was fun, eh?
Yeah, a lot of positive feedback.
Yeah.
We
We had almost 100 people there.
we
Yeah.
filled that room.
Yeah.
I think next year we can't think we can use that room. We're gonna have to look at the other side.
Oh, ambitions.
It is.
Well, anyway, if you missed it, don't worry. I'm almost done editing the recordings.
Yeah.
They're actually up on YouTube. They're in a hidden playlist at the moment. I'm just putting some final polish up, and then we'll get that out there. And so follow us on LinkedIn, and you'll get all the latest.
Yeah, and I had some of the separate interviews as well. I've got some content going out.
Yep.
And some follow-ups.
Yep. It was a great day.
Yeah.
Good.
Loved it.
So that's not what we're here to do today.
No.
We're here to do another one of our digital experience workshops where we do these every single month. Just a little something for you to think about to help you elevate the impact of your digital experience. You should be able to spend the next half hour with us and come away with a little nugget, a little piece of actionable activity that you can do to make your digital experience better.
I love it.
What are we talking about this month?
Today we are talking about starting around flagship content.
Flagship content. Awesome.
This is a really interesting conversation because I've had this with a couple of customers that we have, and it was a discussion when we ran this for our own customers where they were going through, oh, well, what does this mean? How does this work? Kind of aligning the content strategy around this.
Yeah. So as always, we'd like to provide a little handout, a worksheet, something to guide you through the concept here. So hit that link, flyw.co/dx-flagship, and you will get this PDF.
And we'll throw it into the
in the chat. Yeah. So this is Jen's already done that. Look at you, Jen. So this is just a checklist when you're going down the flagship content, route. If this is a strategy that makes sense for you, here are some things to remember about how to make sure you're doing it well.
Good checklist, good outline.
Yeah. I mean, obviously don't make perfect the enemy of the good here, but the closer you can come to that list of qualities, the more robust you'll be.
Correct.
And we're going to talk all about it.
Yep.
So that's not the only. We're not just showing you a handout. The rest of the next half hour is dedicated to talking about why this works, how this works, and exactly what was on that handout.
Yep.
So let's start with a conversation about exactly what it is we're talking about and what we mean when we describe flagship content.
So the question is,
I can see your wheels already spinning.
Yeah, again, flagship content is, maybe we should talk about what it isn't.
Okay.
Before we do what it is. Because I think even if I put out the conceptual idea of what flagship content is, I think people will automatically go to what we're saying, that pillar content, what you're about to throw up there, that cornerstone content. So let's describe what isn't flagship content.
So we're not talking about like your origin story. We're not talking about like that fundamental first principles kind of stuff. We're not talking about a sizzle reel. We're not talking about something that's there to celebrate a big win. Those are all good pieces of content. Put them in your content plan. It's just not what we're talking about.
And pillar content is the one that I find that most people kind of, including myself at one point, that we would mix up, because pillar content, we're saying, okay, this is what's going to hold up SEO. This is what's going to hold up kind of campaigns. That's still not what flagship content is.
Yeah, like a piece of pillar content might be a white paper where you express a deep understanding of a specific subject matter. And not to say a white paper can't be a piece of flagship content, but it doesn't mean that all white papers are flagship content. So it just shows that you have a good, strong understanding in a specific subject matter area.
But you can use the flagship content to create pillar content.
Yep. And we're not talking about the big inspirational, like, let me paint you a vision kind of stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So what the heck is it, right? It's not all those things. What the heck is left? It's a way to get you out of thinking about delivering independent, hopefully related, but not necessarily closely tied together pieces of content.
Yes.
Okay. So we're trying to get you out of a discrete, unrelated content plan into something that is shares the same theme, coalesces sort of back to the same point, and those individual pieces are all sort of born out of what that original piece of flagship content was.
I love it.
Okay.
And if we had an example of our flagship,
we do. It's at the end. So we're getting you from that collection to something that's cohesive.
Yeah.
Okay. And the reason this is a strategy and not just a plan is it's integrated. There's a through line when you consider all the individual pieces of content that come as part of the whole strategy. So again, flagship content is a collection of content. It's not one individual piece of content, although it has this anchor that we'll get to. So this is what's on the worksheet that we talked about. It starts with that single piece of content. It does have to be comprehensive and cohesive. So what do those two words mean? So comprehensive, it's thorough, it's robust. And it's cohesive. It sticks together. It's not just a title page and a thank you page with a bunch of sort of related but unconnected thoughts inside of it, right?
Correct.
It is a more well-informed piece of content. Ideally, it's research. Well, not ideally. It must be researched.
It must be researched. There is no if, ands, or buts. If especially if it's going to cross the boundary of time.
Yes.
Like if flagship content usually gets updated, and
good point.
Research consistently.
Yeah. Now, this part I think has been the biggest barrier to really producing good quality. Honest to goodness flagship content. So a lot of people are like, fine, I'm still going to produce it. You can create your definition. I'll create mine, just because it's not as robustly, quote unquote researched as you told me to be. But with AI, it has never been more easy to do a properly well-researched piece of flagship content.
Yes, I still believe when we're talking about flagship content, though, for larger organizations, that it can't be something that just one person or like a very small team execute with no outside conversations with other business units.
So, okay. So what's the difference?
Start.
Good point. Okay. So the difference between I think what you thought I meant and what you clarified is you can use AI in research mode.
Yes.
To bring back referenceable data to support your idea, right? So you can go find real honest data and you can click through to the sources and you can make sure that they're not hallucinated, which you absolutely have to do. I was working on this for a piece of our own content. I was talking about how you need to shift your planning for SEO in an AI world.
Yeah.
And I had it do some research for me. And I'd written an article, and then I said, do some research. I'm like, oh, this is good research. I'm like, yeah, I like these points. And then I went, can you now stick them together? Can you please take my article, my thought piece, my opinion piece, my well-informed, direction here, my blog, and now can you take the research you've done and marry it up with the article? And it went, great, no problem. And it did. And it updated the article and it gave me some facts and figures that were in the right place contextually. And I was like, super. So, what are the references that back up these? And it gave me a list of references, and the references were fabricated.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. So it did. If I went to the research paper and clicked through, true, and but it hallucinated in drawing the connection between the two. So it's never been easier, but don't take it on faith.
And there is going to be a time with AI right now where that is being done on purpose.
Okay,
right?
all right. That's a different
That's a
workshop. I
different
don't want to get
workshop.
into AI.
So be very careful what you take
Okay.
from AI.
Okay, so back to flagship content here. It needs to be unique and insightful. So to your point, don't just go and regurgitate something that a good tool helps you find. Yes, AI can help you find the statistics to support your argument, but you know what's even more powerful than that? Doing your own research, getting your own outside data, actually creating your own survey, and working to get your own unique insight that AI picks up on and helps with your SEO.
I just remembered this from last time we did this, and the unique, insightful. It's got to be your own. Yeah. I have actually seen one organization pass flagship content that another organization created as their own. And they were called out on it. They were a large organization. And
you see this a lot. Like you see,
it's and it won't help you.
Yeah, you see a lot of articles that are roundups of statistics and data and whatnot, and boy, do they fall down quickly.
Yes.
But the folks that are doing that, they're just playing a freaking advertising game. They're just trying to get clicks, impressions to get more ad impression revenue.
Yeah, absolutely.
So don't do that. Yeah, that's not flagship content. So it needs to be something of substance.
Yep.
More robust. And that's what differentiates this a bit from pillar content. I know we're kind of splitting hairs and being semantic here, but that's on purpose, right? So pillar content can still be substantive, but flagship content is going to stand the test of time.
Yes.
Okay, as you said earlier.
Yeah.
And it does have enough in it that it can be sprinkled out, parceled out throughout the year. You can pull nuggets out that stand on their own, and then also encourage further exploration to go back to the source of truth, which is your original piece.
I know we're calling it content, but one of the areas that I've looked at is actionable. Right? I can see shareable.
Okay, well, here, let me jump ahead and I'll just put everything else up here. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
One of the areas that I like from content that might just not be written, might be not just research, is something that you can actually use, something that actually produces an action, similar to our flagship content, as it creates more opportunities for the other pieces of content.
I'm not quite following. What do you mean it's not content, but it's action?
So if somebody for ours, which we'll get into, people can use our flagship content as something that's actionable. It's not just,
so hold on. Roll it back here. So because we were going to give a real example at the end, but let's give it now. So our flagship content is this series of workshops that we do. We start the year with understanding how all of these things fit together. We have a whole health check and an assessment that you can do across a spectrum of digital experience activities. And then we deliver more in-depth understanding of each one of those throughout the entire year with the individual handouts. Now, you're telling me that that's not content?
I'm not saying that, but you could also see we have a digital experience canvas.
Right.
Which basically
okay. I mean, I think
that.
Right. So again, like, I take your point. You're saying that this can be a guide. It can be a workshop. It can be an event. It doesn't have to be an article.
Correct.
Now, I'm saying flagship content is a collection, can be a collection of several different kinds of content. An event, a white paper, a video, a checklist, a workshop, what have you, that in whole is declared your flagship content.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I think the point there is, it's substantive, right? So again, if we go back to our checklist here, we've boiled it down to these 8 things, and that's what you'll see when we pop back over to our PDF.
Yeah.
So why do you want to do this? So we've already talked about this. It came out organically. And what we were just saying, we were going through those criteria. But to get in deeper on the researched article that I was trying to write the other day, we get this question a lot now is, well, wait a minute. Like if we're dealing with a no-click digital experience, which basically means the days of optimizing your website for SEO and making sure that you see a list of 10 blue links that you hope somebody clicks on one of to bring you to your website where you can continue the journey, create the engagement, drive conversion, and increase your revenue. That playbook has a new chapter. So
Yes.
I didn't say is no longer valid, right? That will still bring traffic to your site. But I don't know what the statistics are, but it's pretty bleak.
Yes.
For following that old playbook as your only course of action.
Correct.
Okay. So if you depended on getting clicks through to your site for your traffic and your business model and your revenue, you have to do some quick work here. Because AI is synthesizing and coming up with a solution and giving you one cohesive, consolidated answer, which may be enough.
Correct. And it used to be that we would always say, hey, you need to create consistent content.
Right.
Right. And some people would take that literally and just copy and paste a whole bunch of crap into their blogs.
Bing, 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 bing.
And, you know, even Google with Gemini, they're still looking at site rank as a huge mirror. And that's how Gemini will actually say and list what they put out for their context.
Right.
Right. So as Gemini reaches out and puts the context of whatever you're searching, it will look at organizations, their site rank.
Right.
So, you know, like you were saying, those blue links are still, they can still be a priority, but you know, that what you put out is more important now.
Right. So what matters to AI? How do you do AIO? AI optimization. Is there a word for this yet? Is it, are you calling it AIO?
Not that I know of.
Okay. So the parallel effort to optimize your brand for being recommended by AI. What does AI value, and how do you make sure that you get recommended by AI? That is sort of the equivalent question to SEO. Now, I firmly believe that we've kind of rolled back the clock in terms of what marketers need to do.
100%. I was just going to say the exact same thing.
Okay.
We're going back.
So we for decades have been learning and optimizing and training ourselves and measuring our staff and our marketers against PageRank,
SEO,
link placement. And we would do things to manipulate that algorithm or optimize for the algorithm. And for a long time, we've been saying, like, if you just have good content, you will naturally get referrals and you will naturally build an organic following and you will naturally get that page rank that you're looking for, that authority that drives you up the page rank.
And I would see even without the authority, people would move on that, right?
Yes.
They would be more inclined to
you
say,
can do things.
How can I get a higher page rank within Google, versus authority?
Right. So yeah, there's sort of a three-legged stool there when it comes to SEO, and authority is one of them, and you can do things
which is important.
But I think it's actually that authority pillar that now becomes the pillar in the AI world,
and it is not obvious.
So AI is essentially sort of simulating human behavior.
Correct.
And what you take as an individual as an influencing contribution to your decision making is what AI is trying to emulate.
Yep.
So you're going to ChatGPT, you're putting in a query, you're doing some research, and AI's synthesis is hopefully based on something similar to what would happen if you happen to have a friend who was well versed in that same subject matter or very familiar with that product or that industry. Oh, well, here's what I know and this is what I think, and so you should go buy this widget. AI is going to do the exact same thing. Okay, so that's the market and the world that we lived in before Google.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
So now it's about brand awareness more than ever again. Okay.
Yep.
And it is about just sort of genuine, good, authentic, testable, provable, defendable value for your service or your product offering.
I agree.
Now, listen, this doesn't mean abandon SEO altogether.
No, this is now, but it's more important to factor in what you look at for SEO.
Because that's right. Because the SEO concepts still apply. You still need reputation, and you still need like knowledge and authority around that. And you still need to have a community of followers and contributors endorsing your brand, right? But AI injects a new layer of sophistication in analyzing the strength of that story.
Yeah, because it looks at cluster data. It doesn't look at a single point.
That's right. That's right.
So that is the big step. Even with Gemini 2, it takes authority, but then it takes authority relative to itself. So if you've got a big site and the site doesn't have any authority because it's got no other sites that reference it,
right.
Its authority is so low that Gemini will just go, this is what it is.
Right. So you still need to do what, and I describe it as needing to now, it used to be important to be authentic, but cast a wide net and be broad with SEO. You still need to do that, but now we've added the challenge of needing to layer on depth.
Yeah,
which I love. I think this raises the bar, and it means that the brands and the businesses who are truly understanding their value, how to articulate it, how to communicate it, will be the ones that bubble to the top, that come into the recommendation engine, that get the primary synthesis from AI.
So this comes back to the fact that if you look at Apple and you see the nice shiny pictures, Apple's a hard one because it's always going to have a huge authority. But I look at a lot of smaller organizations that try to copy that. They have great imagery, but when people go to it, especially
but Apple's
in the
so
B2B,
much more than just their imagery.
Oh,
right?
no,
They have a high quality product, and they've got a great user interface, and
what I'm saying is when you're seeing copying by smaller organizations, especially in the B2B world, where people go to the site and they see, oh, nice images, but then they can't find anything about those products, about the service, because it's trying to cater to, through imagery. And I believe that's going to go away, where sites are going to have to be a lot more, like you said, more resource focused so that it gets picked up.
So, yes. Okay. So, reinforcing the point that a flagship content strategy is how you address that necessity now. So how do you do this? So one effort is you identify the topic. It's like writing an essay. Establish your hypothesis. You do the research. You do the writing. You publish it, and then you distribute it. Boy, that's common sense.
It is. And then when you're conducting the research, you do have to, hold those key stakeholder interviews, really, go to peers.
But I think it's important to make sure that you identify your topic and establish your hypothesis. So many times you skip over that and go straight to let's just craft a survey and
but that's horrible.
Right. And we'll just write. But if you don't sort of have a thesis statement, you can change it later, but that you're working to defend it, it just doesn't provide the same amount of strength in the outcome. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the other point I want to emphasize on this slide is publishing. So invest in the production. Don't just don't just pop it up as a blog. Don't just put it in, in some sloppy, like you've put this much work into it. Make sure that it's got some polish on it. Okay.
I work for an organization that we did really, really, really great flagship content in terms of the work and effort. And boy, the polish was so bad that it didn't get reviewed, and it was probably worth the weight in gold.
So that's one way to do it, right? And that's probably like the textbook way. But I want to concede that that's not always practical in every corporate environment, right? So we want to get you to the point where you've got something that's packaged, that's well written and whatnot, but you might need to piggyback off of an existing or an established library of content or content plan.
Yeah.
So if you've already sort of done a bunch of writing that's been distributed, look at how you can then sort of reverse engineer some topics or a hypothesis from that, and then how you can tie a bow around that. But you've still got to add the research and the editing part.
I would agree. Especially, you can do the lightest step, which is if you have a big blog, you can look at what's your hottest topics, are they checklists,
right?
Revamp.
And then how do you get your flagship content out there? So it needs to have a home base, right? Because you're trying to establish some authority for this again. So it does deserve its own landing page, its own download source. I've got question mark here over gate. I mean, boy, does this sort of debate go back and forth. Do you want to be a good citizen and make sure that people have access to it, and that's how you get your word out more? You can amplify the distribution more easily, or this is something valuable, and if people want it, I need to know who they are so that we can engage in a conversation. You can decide on that. I've got something I want to try here at some point in the future, which is not to ask for an email when they get the download, but to put up an acknowledgement that this is something that we've invested in. And before you download it, we just want you to acknowledge that if you like it, we'd appreciate some engagement.
Yeah, I think that's amazing.
You don't need to tell us who we are. We won't chase you. But if you really get value out of this, please share, please endorse, please follow us, and that's how you can give back to the value that we've tried to give.
I love it.
Provide out. So we talked about our practical example here. So if you're unfamiliar, we have our planning canvas. Is this going to work on the fly here? So we do this. We have this tool that we've built for delivering on. Now I can't even find our video in StreamYard because it's in the other tab. So we have the planning canvas. It's a workshop that we provide, and it's a pretty robust tool. But you'll see right from what I'm sharing on the screen, it's got nuance to it, and there's different topics and considerations. And this is a whole half day or full day thing that we do. We'd love to deliver it for you, but we also make sure that we're parceling out sort of the individual considerations that you'll find in that entire workshop along the way. And that's why we do our monthly workshops. We'll take half an hour and we'll talk about one particular aspect, maybe of digital experiences, of what you'll find in the canvas. We'll write blog posts about that as well, and share all of that on LinkedIn as well. So we've got that core, researched understanding of what's involved in delivering a good, robust digital experience. We want everybody to know all of those things. But there are some pillars that stands on, which are the individual workshops that we deliver. And we're trying to get some social engagement and interaction and sharing through, digestible blog posts, videos, and other things on social media.
Correct.
There it is.
That's it.
So hopefully you learn a little bit more about flagship content. Try to inject something a little bit more relevant for our current moment about why it helps with getting yourself some more exposure when it comes to AI, because I do think that's going to make this even more relevant.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. See you next month, everybody.
Take care.